Good evening. This is the Centennial Community Association General Meeting for Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. First of all, some guidelines for our virtual meetings. Upon entering the meeting, you'll notice that you have been muted. If you have a question, please use the chat box. It is in the controls. It should be at the bottom of your screen. You can chat in there if you have a question, and we'll do our best to answer questions throughout presentations. Video, feel free to use it if you feel comfortable. If not, you can turn it off. We're still happy to have you here. And finally, this meeting is being recorded. We will post this on our YouTube account within the next day or so after the meeting. And finally, meeting minutes are going to be posted to the CCA website, and you can see the URL down below there. And for those of you who might be new to our meetings or new to our organization, this is a general map of the Centennial neighborhood. You can see it goes from roughly 143rd Avenue at the west all the way over to the city limits, which roughly are around 174th Avenue at the north, all the way from Stark down to the northern side of Powell Butte. And on the right there, we have a few general ground rules about participating in our meetings. And of course, respect is the #1 rule. So thank you all for attending. I'm Dan Bramsky. I'm the chair of CCA. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We've already gone through our introduction to the meetings and to our organization. You'll see the next item on the agenda is the election of new board members. Unfortunately, we do need a quorum of existing board members at this meeting to hold that election. Since we don't have that quorum tonight, and of course I can just double check to ensure that nobody else has showed up that I was not expecting, we are going to defer that to an electronic vote. And then at an upcoming meeting, we can hear a little bit more about new board members. You'll notice that there are backgrounds and bios in the agenda that was sent out today for this meeting. With that being said, I think we can roll right into our first presentation, which comes from Gail Palmer, who's also on the CCA board, who's going to give us an update about the East Portland Resilience Coalition update.
Hi, Dan. Just before I go into that, do we have a deadline by which we're going to do the e-vote for the board members? Do we have a, I just was going to put something in the minutes.
Excellent question. I am going to, let's set a goal of 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
And I can, if I'm crafty enough here, I can find what day that is. That would be Tuesday, the 1st of June.
Okay. Alrighty, so I am going to share my screen. The East Portland Resilience Coalition is an offshoot of the East Portland Action Plan, and it is Centennial Community Association is one of the partners of the coalition, and we have signed a 2-year agreement of a memorandum of agreement to participate in the coalition for 2 years. And so I'll explain a little more for people who haven't already heard about it, and bring up my slides here. Okay, what you should be seeing on your screen is just the first slide, which shows that the East Portland Resilience Coalition is composed, and the geographic focus of the coalition actions are the 13 neighborhoods of Outer East Portland. Of course, CCA is one of those larger geographic neighborhoods. You can see those on the screen. And resilience, for the purposes of the coalition, we're taking the definition from the Portland Clean Energy Fund, which states that resilience is the ability to withstand and recover from disruptions. A resilient community has social and environmental systems in place that are less vulnerable to disruption and more able to recover and adapt when disruption occurs. So the coalition got formed in the fall of 2020 and was formed by the East Portland Action Plan as a response to the pandemic, the health and other environmentally related disruptions that were occurring in 2020 and still are occurring, the after effects in 2021. So the 2-year mission for the 24 organizations that are part of the coalition is to increase the capacity of residents of the 13 neighborhoods and organizations in East Portland to build a community resilience plan in response to disruptive events like the pandemic or environmental disasters. And we were treated to some of the types of disasters that could and likely will continue for our community. And so building the ability of neighborhoods and families to adapt, recover, and be prepared for future disruptions is what the coalition is about. So
Gail, are you still with us? I think Gail's computer might have frozen or her internet is a little slow. Sorry all about this. Let's wait on just a minute and see if Gail can rejoin us. I noticed that her internet was a little laggy earlier before the meeting, so I'm hoping it's just that in she can pop back on. Okay, well, in order just to keep the meeting moving along, I wonder if we might switch gears and move to our next presenter. And then hopefully after that, maybe Gail will be able to rejoin us at that point. Our next presentation is from Katie Asher, who is with the Water Bureau and wanted to give us an update on the reservoir that serves us here in our neighborhood.
Great.
Welcome,
Thanks, Dan.
Katie.
Thank you. I am looking for the share screen button. I'm going to get my screen set up here and I'll get rolling. So like Dan said, my name is Katie Asher. I work with the City of Portland Water Bureau as a senior communications specialist, and it doesn't look like my screen is sharing it. Can anyone see it?
I can see it.
You can see it. It says Powell Butte Reservoir Roof 1 roof repair. Real big. Okay, great. It didn't give me the green bar around it, so I just wanted to check. I have 2 screens going. First of all, thank you all for having me tonight. I used to serve on my neighborhood association board in North Portland, and after a long day, it's go hear someone talk some more and more. And that I just appreciate you giving me time to speak tonight. I'll try to keep this kind of snappy. I'll answer questions as I can. And I think if you have questions while I'm talking, you could feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll answer them as I can. And yeah, we'll just go from there. I have about 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to just try to roll through and give you guys a little bit of background about an upcoming construction project at Powell Butte. And so a lot of people know about the Powell Butte Reservoir area. They know it as the Powell Butte Nature Park, right? They know it's a great park. It's a place you like to go walk, bike, ride horses, enjoy nature. What a lot of people don't know is that this is actually, Powell Butte is actually a really critical part of Portland's water system. There are 2 underground reservoirs at the park, and they play a huge role in fueling our system with our safe and abundant water every minute of every day. All of the water from our system comes in and goes out to about almost 1 million people from the reservoirs here at Powell Butte using gravity alone. And in this coming summer, we're going to be doing an upgrade on one of the 2 reservoirs. Starting this summer, we're going to install and repair a new waterproofing and drainage system on the roof of the reservoir we very creatively have named Reservoir 1. It was the first one we built. The other reservoir is Reservoir 2. So pretty easy to keep straight. And some of you may have been around for the building of Reservoir 2. I wasn't with the Water Bureau then, but some people might have a memory of that. But so Reservoir 1, it was built in the 1980s, and it's 50 million gallons, holds 50 million gallons of reservoir. This is a photo taken of it from above. And it's the older of the 2 reservoirs at Powell Butte. And as you can see from the photo here, an outdated drainage system on the reservoir roof allows water to pool above the reservoir during the rainy season. And what this has allowed is for water to leak in from the roof into the reservoir. And when we do lots of regular repairs of inspections of our reservoirs, as part of our obligations to keep water safe and clean and abundant for everybody. And when we noticed the leaks coming in from this roof, we took this reservoir offline and made a plan for how we might repair the roof. Construction standards were different in the 1980s. And, for some people, 1980s doesn't seem like that long ago, but in reservoir and construction terms, it was long enough ago that we had a different kind of waterproofing technology. And so we're gonna repair the roof and apply a new, more current waterproofing technology to the roof this summer. And so for a big picture, I was listening to Gail talk about resiliency. This is part of our resiliency plan for the Water Bureau. We have the water coming in from the South Shore well field. We have water coming in from the Bull Run watershed, and then it goes out to everyone in Portland, as well as people living in Gresham and Rockwood and Tualatin Valley. And so if the water if from one of our sources like Bull Run or Columbia South Shore Waterfield was to be interrupted, we can use these 2 underground reservoirs that's stored here. We can use it to serve people while we resolve that problem. If we have a problem with our source, they give us sort of a safety net that allows us some time to adapt or problem solve if something happens with one of our sources. And this means, we have a plan for an emergency, and we also can avoid interrupting water service for everybody that these reservoirs serve. And if 2020 showed us anything, it's a good time to be thinking ahead, getting prepared, making sure you have extra plans in place for emergencies. And so talking just a little bit about construction, we are, we're really committed. We love Powell Butte Nature Park as a park, and we're committed to protecting the plants and the wildlife, the natural beauty of the park, as well as, really working to try to make our construction impacts less. They're going to be construction impacts, but, we've been doing a lot of work leading up to construction to try to lessen our impacts. So I've been working with Portland Parks and Recreation to talk about some of the impacts we might have on trails and where we could put signage and what kind of safety precautions we could put in place. We've also, because we've been working with Parks and Recreation, they're building an expansion of Park Lane Park in the next year or so. And we're going to be giving them half of the dirt from our project to use in that expansion, because we know the dirt is clean fill. We don't put, you don't use pesticides or insecticides on top of our reservoir, so we can reuse some of our dirt with them. We also, you'll see this picture of a bird in the center of my screen. We've delayed our project start by about 4 months so we can protect the Savannah sparrow. These are birds that nest in clumps of grass along the surface of the reservoir roof. They really like the types of plants we have on top of the reservoir, which is just like clumps of grass and small flowers. And so we've been in communication as part of our planning process for this project. We've been talking to people from Parks and Recreation, the ornithologists from the Bureau of Environmental Services, as well as people at Johnson Creek Watershed Council and Conservation Insight, which are 2 nonprofits in the area, to talk about our plans and figure out ways we can maybe limit our impacts on the birds during the nesting season, which is a kind of critical part to these birds' life cycle. And so the birds, we know that the birds arrive in the spring and they stay around, and then they usually leave, go fly off into the next phase of where they're going in July. So we've postponed the start of our project this year until July. And we're also going to be doing quite a bit of, we're going to be doing bird surveys where we send trained folks out in the area to locate birds' nests, mark them, and put a buffer zone around them so we can track that, and we won't dig around their nests during construction. And that's kind of a big part of our project right now. We're also, we have a lot of erosion controls that we've designed and we've taken through a comprehensive review with the city and with the State of Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. So they've reviewed these, and we'll have a permit to manage how we look at how we guide how we manage our stormwater and sediment erosion, so we can protect Johnson Creek and other neighbors from having dust. And so last but not least, we have these protections in place during construction. We also, when we're done, we plan to take some of the same dirt. We won't need all of it. We're going to take some of the same dirt we removed from the site. We're going to keep it on site and then just put it back on top, so that when we replant, we'll be replanting with native species that are friendly to pollinators and that we think the Savannah sparrows might like. We'll be putting that dirt back and then replanting with native plants, so it'll look a lot like it does right now, very similar to Reservoir 2, kind of make it look like the same park we know and love. So we put some thought into just the park itself and the nature and wildlife there. It's a nature park. All right, so our construction timeline. So I mentioned that we are, we're starting a little late this summer to survey and protect the nesting birds and make sure ground nesting birds aren't impacted by our construction. We're going to do as much as we can this summer in the dry season to get as much work as we can get done. A lot of our work, like concrete roof repair, we can't do in the rainy season. It's something we have to do when it's dry out. So we have a really short window from July to whenever it starts raining. It might be longer. These days it's getting longer, but we'll have this short window where we're going to do as much as we can this summer. We're going to remove the dirt from the roof of the reservoir. We're going to repair cracks as we can and install the drainage system so that and then kind of button things up for the rainy season, the wet season. And then next spring, we'll again survey for nesting birds. We're not going to put dirt back on the reservoir this winter. And so there won't be birds nesting there this winter into next spring. And so therefore, we'll do some ideas for how we can encourage the birds to nest in nearby places at the reservoir next spring, but not around the reservoir, so we don't impact them in a bad way when they're nesting next spring, and we can get a lot longer window of dry weather to finish waterproofing, install our remaining drainage system, put this, it's like putting gravel up back on top of the roof and put the soil back, and then replant with our native plants. And so in terms of what you might expect with construction, we're going to be there Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Our contractor may request to do some Saturday work just to get everything in the dry work window, and so we can finish some phase of the project and wrap it up. And if we do that, I'll post updates on our website. Also, I have an e-newsletter I'll be sending out regularly, which you can sign up for on the website, which I'll share at the end of my presentation. Of course, it's construction. There will be noise and dust. We will be working to keep the dust down as part of our erosion control plan, even dry I always think of rain causing erosion, but wind is also an erosion factor. We plan to have our equipment and supplies stored in our construction area and have our workers park there as well, just so we don't have a really negative, we want to leave that parking lot is used by visitors and it's packed all the time. So we don't want to have a major impact on the parking lot there. We'll try to keep people up in our construction area. And then of course, we're going to have, for a portion of this project, there will be some traffic delays while the trucks and equipment are moving on and off the site. We're going to have them go slowly so that we keep people safe. We're not driving really quickly down these roads with these big trucks. And so you may experience some traffic delays while trucks and equipment are moving around on the site. And to talk a little bit more about the truck route, let's see if I can get that on my screen. So for anyone who was around for the construction of Reservoir 2, you'll be glad to know there's going to be a lot less truck traffic and dirt removal. When we built Reservoir 2, which is sort of in the northwest area near Reservoir Lane, we were removing, I think, 6 stories deep worth of dirt. And for this project, we're removing 2 feet. So there will be trucks, there will be dirt removal, but I think it'll be a lot less of an impact in terms of just how people experience the sort of noise and dust and trucks of construction. We're going to have trucks come in off 162nd and Powell, and our current truck route plan is to have them come up Andreg Trail, take the east access lane, load up on Pipeline Lane, and then travel out on the north access lane. Sort of make this lollipop shape. And we're working with our contractor right now. We're just in the beginning phases with them. So we're working with them to try to develop a more comprehensive traffic control plan, which I'll be sharing when I get to that part. Hi, Erin, I see your hand up. Do you have a question now? And maybe I can't see the chat.
I've unmuted Aaron if you have a question.
Okay. Thanks. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were taking questions or not, but there is a question in the chat too.
Oh,
Did you want me
okay.
to read it?
Sure. There it is.
Looks like Karen said, how many days of supply for the whole city are held in the reservoirs?
Ooh, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find out.
Okay, and the other question is there any way to access it if there is an infrastructure issue up or downstream?
Any way to access the water if there's infrastructure issue up or downstream? The water that's in the reservoirs? I'm guessing if it is, yeah, the reservoirs have pipes coming and going in and out of the area. There's some really big pipes coming in and out of the reservoirs. So if there are infrastructure issues, that's the purpose of these, is that they can help us release water to wherever we need it to go in the region. I don't know if that helps answer the question.
Okay, and then my question was, are they taking the dirt that they're removing straight to Park Lane Park, or are they going to put it somewhere else first, or do you know?
Well, I think our hope is that we could take it, one-stop shop, we take it from one place to the other, but I think we are still, because we just brought our contractor on and, Park Lane Park is getting going, I think we have to work it out, coordinate with them a little bit, see where they want it to go. I think for us, cost-wise, we'd like to just be able to take it from one place and put it to another and not have to stockpile it somewhere.
Yeah. All right, thanks.
Sure thing. Thanks. So just back to the truck and trail routes, this is still a work in progress. I'm going to be developing more signage and upgrading my map as soon as I can get more information from the contractor about, access and impacts to trails and things like that. And I'm working with the folks who are up at Powell Butte who work for Portland Parks and Recreation to sort of refine those details and make sure we're taking care of the things we need to take care of so people are aware of what's happening and are safe. So Reservoir Lane, which is on the sort of southwest side of our construction area, is currently closed. It's closed for the bird nesting season. So there's signs up asking people not to walk up there and not to, I think it's a popular place to throw your chucket with your dog. I can see why that is. They're asking people not to do that right now because we don't want people or dogs scaring the birds or stepping on their little egg nests under the clumps of grass. And that will stay closed for our construction time. We we considered opening it, but it seemed like it's such a very specific trail, and there are other ways to get around it that we thought it would be just safer to not have send people to a dead end right by the construction site. Yeah, and so right now we have a plan. Our plan is that trail users and trucks would be sharing trails, but again, you know, I think we're going to be working on some ideas for maybe creating separation boundaries or creating lanes so people can keep separated and keep safe from each other. Let's see. And I think with that, I tried to create a really short presentation for you all in case you had questions. I have our project webpage up here on the screen. It's portland.gov/water/Powell Butte Roof. And I have my phone and email address there. And I see another hand raised, so I can answer questions.
Yes, I'll unmute Linda.
During Reservoir 2 construction, every day it rained, you violated water quality.
Okay.
Every single day. I'm glad to hear that you are taking a break in between constructions so that the rainy weather is not impacted.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely a consideration for our construction manager. He said, you know, we just don't want to be up there in the rain and making a mess and dragging dirt and everywhere. We want to just button it up for the winter.
Even the trucks coming off of the mountain tracked mud all over the city.
Yeah.
It was horrendous, but nevertheless, lessons learned. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that you're not going to be doing that again.
Great.
And I also need a map of the final traffic pattern.
Yeah.
I know several people that are going to continue to use the park and would like to know where they are and where they are not allowed.
Yeah, certainly. Well, it's definitely something I ask for every week. Do we have a traffic control plan yet? That's what people are going to care about. You know, they want to know where they can go, what they can do, what's safe. And I think it's a really key part of our plan. So I will definitely share that with you all when I have that. Yeah. It's a great question.
We're happy to share that through our channels, but of course we only reach a small segment of the neighborhood. Right. Other than somebody knowing about the website address that you've posted there, are there going to be public mailings or other kind of mass broadcasting?
Yeah, well, that's what my final question for you all is based on what you're asking me. I'm sending a postcard out that has in 5 languages announcing there will be construction to everyone in the 236 area code. I have that going out. It has a QR code that will take people to our webpage that has a brief project description in Spanish, Russian, Vietnamese, and Chinese, and English, of course. English is a little more extensive, but because it just costs a lot of money to translate, but I've tried to put everything that's key for those folks. I also posted this information to Nextdoor, to about 11,000 people on Nextdoor earlier last week. We're going to be putting signage up at the park that directs people to the webpage. And yeah, I am going to be I've reached out to Powell-Hurst Gilbert neighborhood and Pleasant Valley. I'll be speaking at Pleasant Valley's neighborhood meeting tomorrow evening. I haven't heard back from Powell-Hurst Gilbert. I emailed them a couple times, but I'll keep trying. And I think I was going to maybe reach out to the management folks at the trailer parks or the mobile home parks at the base of 162nd Powell. I know those people have been really involved with our projects in the past. Been emailing the Friends of Powell Butte group, Johnson Creek Watershed Council, but I'm really interested in hearing additional ways to reach neighbors. You know, I'm kind of focus in on a project and get to know all the folks in that area. And this is new for me. Powell Butte is new for me because I'm somewhat new to the Water Bureau. So please share your suggestions of good ways to reach people.
And Linda, I'm going to unmute you again because I see you raised your hand again, I believe.
Thank you so much. I have been trying to put it down because she answered my question, but I'm not succeeding.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I will lower it, and if it doesn't go down, I'll just ignore you. I swear I'm not doing it on purpose, Linda. Um, and looks like we have in the chat box a message from, I believe this is Sabrina at the Rosewood Initiative. I would love to get more information via email so that we can share with our neighbors as well.
Okay, great.
Okay. I think we've answered all the questions on this subject. So I just want to thank you, Katie, for coming and presenting and making sure that the word is getting out, because of course we all rely on the reservoir, but I know that the park itself is something that we all um, uh, use
Yeah,
every week and every day. And
right.
it's a part of our life, especially during COVID when there's not really many other places to go.
This is true. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, I'll stop sharing my screen, but feel free to reach out to me any way you want. If you have ideas about people I should reach, or you hear somebody who has a concern, send them my way. I want to provide really good customer service on this project. I want to be there to provide info. So thanks for your time.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you for joining us, Katie. I see that we do have Gail back with us. Gail, I see that you don't have a screen, so you must be on a phone.
No, I'm on a different computer.
Okay.
I'm not sure when I cut out.
I think you're on about this second or third slide.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, why don't we should go ahead and after Sabrina, then maybe
Okay.
I can come back.
Of course. And I see that in the chat you added some information, and it looks like there's a survey. Okay, well, with that, I'd like to introduce Sabrina Wilson, who's the executive director. Hello, there she is, at the Rosewood Initiative, which is a very important asset in our community. So Sabrina, I just want to say welcome. Thank you for coming, and I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. Like Dan said, I'm Sabrina Wilson. I'm the executive director of the Rosewood Initiative. I've been in this position for 9 months now, and we have been doing a lot of work. So starting a new job in a pandemic is definitely new for whoever else is in my position. So thanks for having me. And I'm happy to share kind of what we've been up to. Please, feel free to ask me questions, ways of partnerships that you might have in mind. But I'll just go ahead and get started and kind of sharing what we've been up to and where we're at. So most notably, I wanted to share that we are doing weekly vaccine clinics at the Rosewood Initiative all the way through September. And that's super exciting for us because not 97236, which is a zip code I personally live in, but Rosewood's in 97233, and that is the hardest hit zip code in the Portland metro area. And that's, right next door to 97236, our zip code. And so we are really excited to be partnering with the county and Providence to host those every single Saturday from 11 a.m. to 6. We're working on getting a page up on our website for people to sign up, but you can always go to our social media. That's the most timely. And we accept walk-ins as well. So, if you, for some reason, can't find the link or anything, just come on in and get your vaccine. And we're doing Pfizer vaccines. We're working to provide an option for the single shot of Johnson & Johnson. We have heard hesitancy, especially with it being pulled and then coming back. So we might be offering that at a lower amount, maybe like midweek or something like that. But we're working on that. So in case anybody's like, no, I can't do 2 shots or anything like that, stay tuned for that. I also wanted to share a little bit of change within our organization. That change has been pretty old by now as well, but I thought I'd use this opportunity to share our cultural organizer model that we have within our organization. And so around the time that I came on as an organization, we decided to ensure that we have community organizers on our staff team The staff has always been comprised of community members, whether having grew up in the neighborhood, living in the neighborhood, or just really dedicated to this place. But we have brought in leaders from the community to be on our team to really ensure that they're elevating the needs that they're hearing in the community, and the resources that we provide are very relevant. And so within that, we center 4 cultural groups, which is the Black community, the Latinx community, the Nepali community, and the Rohingya community. And so we have a cultural organizer for each of those 4 cultural groups. That does not mean we don't work with anybody else. We work with all neighbors, but we definitely are centering these 4 communities right now in our work. And we look forward to when we can expand that. And so that's something really exciting that we're doing, because it's really ensuring that we have a 2-way communication between us and the community, and that we can share with our partners, and such as you all or government or things of that nature. So that's super important for me to share. And I thought I would just talk a little bit about what our response has been thus far with Rosewood. We just, well, I guess not just now, what is it, May? It's mid-May. So maybe a month ago, we released our annual report, time flies. And I wanted to share some of the things that we have been doing in 2020 in response to the pandemic, because like I said, you all know, living in the neighborhood, our area was the hardest hit. And therefore our neighbors needed a lot of support, and still do. But I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of what we've been able to accomplish thus far. So we've done things such as direct support, small business support, legal services, and I'll explain a little bit about what each of those are, and digital equity. So with direct support, in 2020, we were providing weekly food boxes to community members. We did things such as household assistance gift cards. And so we provided that to a little over 300 community members. We also did what the state calls wraparound services, and are still doing that through this year, which is for our community members who have tested positive for COVID. We wrap around that community member with services that'll help them quarantine for the allotted amount of time. So whether that's giving them groceries for that amount of time and facilitating those type of things to ensure that they're able to successfully quarantine while if they've tested positive. When it comes to small business support, at the end of the year, we did a really awesome push to provide $200,000 in small business grants. We ended up providing 29 businesses grants, and so that was really great. We're hoping that we'll get the support from our government partners to do that again, because as we all know, our small businesses need our support in this pandemic, especially with the restrictions going back and forth. Legal services. So one of the things that has always been really big for Rosewood is our Legal Services Day, where we work with the county to get fines and fees removed off of people's records. And so I believe we just wrapped up a session, because we're doing them virtually. And so last year we did that. And again, we just did one. I'm trying to remember what date it is, but we just did one, picked 300 people randomly selected to get those fines and fees waived off of their record, so they can move forward with their life and money is not a burden to that. With it being virtual, we're not doing the community service aspect of it. And so hopefully that lowers barriers for people to partake in that and take the next steps in their life. Another thing we're doing is partnering with the Oregon Law Center to do Know Your Rights trainings for community members. And so those 4 cultural groups that I mentioned, we are trying to ensure that we have it in each of those 4 languages. And so there's always the English class, but then we want to make sure that there's also a session in those languages. And so if community members or you yourself are interested in different things, we've talked about workers' rights and with the eviction moratorium and all different things that are very relevant to the pandemic to ensure that people have access to that information. And then digital equity is kind of the last bucket I'll talk about, at least in this space, is also in the end of the year, we did a really big digital equity push to get out over 500 digital devices and over 1,000 internet assistance cards to community members. Was all hands on deck effort. And that was really great to at least start to get people up to speed on some of the things that they absolutely need to even exist in this world now. I feel like everything is digital. And so we recognize that that's only the first step, you know, just handing somebody a laptop or an iPad and say, okay, there you go, you're gonna go be successful. You know, we really wanted to make sure that we are supporting community members in that. And so we've been working with Metro East Media to create engaging online platforms for folks to get more comfortable with their device, and also sometimes meeting one-on-one with people if they're really, you know, struggling with how to use their device, so that they're able to engage. Because most of our programming, if not all of our programming, except for obviously the vaccine shot, you can't do that virtually, but all of our programming is virtual. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting people and engaging and getting that access to resources and information. I will note that another piece that we've been doing is really ensuring that we're encouraging people to be civically engaged. So we played a role in like the redistricting that was going on. And so if there are other, you know, timely things that are happening, we really want to make sure that our community members are, you know, getting access and information to how do I engage, how do I shape my community, you know, and making sure that they're, you know, active participants in that, or at least they know that the opportunity is out there. And so we've been doing that as well. And last thing before I shut up and answer questions is our community center is closed in the way that it was pre-COVID. So we're not, you know, accepting people to just kind of walk in. But we have a resource window up there. We are open for very specific events, trying to maintain it. We are going to be moving a little slower than the rest of the county just because of the nature of our area in terms of COVID positive tests in reopening. But we do want to make sure that, you know, we're able to serve the community the best way that we can. And so I would encourage people to, you know, call us on a phone number if they don't have digital, check us out on social media, you know, private message us or whatever you need to access us. And then of course our emails are on the website as well. And so, so yeah, so that's kind of what we've been up to right now. And we're hoping that hopefully by the end of the year, we can open the community center up at least partially. You know, I know I'm looking forward to awkwardly meeting people in person and trying to figure out how you're supposed to like talk in person again, because we're all going to be like, eye contact, this is weird for a little bit. So anyways, I see a question in the chat. Are you able to reach out to older people to connect? Big problem with vaccinations. Yeah, so elders in the community are a group that we have specifically been wanting to reach and targeting. And so we've done some outreach in the neighboring apartment complexes to Rosewood. We're at 162nd and Stark, just in case anybody doesn't know. And so if you have any other ideas on how to outreach to people, we would love to do that. We really want to make sure that our elders are vaccinated if that's what they want. And of course, something that's core to Rosewood is our partnerships. We greatly value our partnerships. And so we look to partner organizations who might focus more on specifically the elder population. And we, you know, we've done things such as setting aside a couple or as many really shots as they need and saying, okay, this window is for your community members or things like that. So. Is there a model for canvassing with this kind of information? What do you mean by that, canvassing?
I'll unmute you, Karen.
Sorry, the unmute button ended up right behind the chat window, so I couldn't get to it. But my question is, you know, we do lit drops for political campaigns and things like that. Is there a model for canvassing with this information? You know, could literally send, because I bet my net team would be into that. We could send, you know, send people around the neighborhood with a flyer or something and get them signed up. I actually don't know if I can commit to doing that from the net perspective, but I think there would be people willing.
Yeah, I think that's really great. You know, that's something that we've been thinking about as our team is being vaccinated and fully vaccinated and feeling more comfortable with that, as well as the sun's coming out. It was, and now it's like cloudy. I was like wearing sandals today, and I'm like, what's going on? It's raining, but I got a little too excited. But now that the sun is coming out, and we'll find a day when it is, we definitely want to do that to reach more people, because the people might move and change, and so people we might have been connected with might need to get reacquainted with us. And so as we plan that out, I'll definitely be reaching out to this group and as well to you, Karen, for the NET program and volunteers. So that'd be great. I appreciate that thought and that offer, and I will take you up on it. Don't you worry.
I have a question that's just out of curiosity. You mentioned that 9733.
97233.
97233, yes, was the hardest hit. I'm just curious to know why that might be. I wonder how much study has gone into that, about why that.
I don't know how much official study has gone into it, and what the experts in that type of stuff might say. I know that, from my knowledge of the community, there are people living intergenerationally in housing. And so it's not just like, two people in an apartment complex or in a big house or something like that with a big yard. People are living intergenerationally, a lot of apartment complexes, a lot of density. And I also think that, looking at the type of work that people do as well, there's our community, frontline workers and essential staff for, various careers. And so, and a lot of people rely on public transportation. So not to say that public transportation is like a mass spreader, but just to the point of like the whole idea was like isolate, quarantine. And that's not so easily for some of us, we can, okay, let's take all of our meetings from my spare bedroom or whatever the case may be, and for other people, they still need to go out and work and live and move and interact with people. And so I'm looking forward to that information coming out. We knew we were hard hit, but I actually learned from a reporter that we were the hardest hit, who was able to get access to information. So we are trying to, push our government partners and things like that to give us that information and to and to share, and look deeper, because I think another thing is that access to healthcare and wellness has always been hard for many of our community members. We have really high disparities in comparison to Portland, in comparison to the county and metro area. And so, and we know that, COVID is on top of that, just makes it worse. And so another thing that we are doing and have been doing are quarterly health fairs. And so we did those in years past, but we are now making them quarterly, recognizing even more so the need. COVID really just exacerbated what was already the existing conditions. Many people don't have access to healthcare for various reasons, and those essential services and preventative measures. And so it's important that that they have that access.
Wonderful, thank you. It's interesting to know more about why things are spreading more. So a couple of those I had as assumptions, and it's interesting. I never thought about generational living, but of course, and in more confined quarters. So
I think
let's
it's
see.
more reasons than one, for sure.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions for Sabrina? We'll watch the chat box or watch for raised hands. I know whenever we're able to resume meetings, we definitely are excited to be back in your space for our regular meetings.
Yeah.
And of course, any way that we can collaborate and support you, we look to do so.
I appreciate that. Yeah, please, if you think of different ways to collaborate, you can reach out to myself or you can reach out to my team. They might respond quicker. My email is pretty clogged up, but we have our programs director. Her name is Searing. Our communications director's name is Josie, and then of course our community organizers. And so, you can really reach out to anybody on the team, and if they're not the right person, they'll point you in the right direction. So if you have any other thoughts on ways to collaborate, just let me know.
Yeah, I've got a raised hand from Aaron.
Hi, my family and I are fairly new to the neighborhood, and I know the neighborhood is called Centennial, right? But why is it called the Rosewood Initiative? Um,
Yeah, so we don't focus within any boundary that currently exists. We kind of live on the boundary of multiple things. And so Rosewood is a depiction of how community members, our community center is at the corner of 162nd and Stark, but Rosewood is a depiction of how community members live their lives. You know, we don't stop at the Centennial neighborhood border or the city of Portland and Gresham border or the Centennial school district and the other school district border. And so we really kind of sit at that intersection and just support community members that live within that space. And we really do support, you know, outer East Portland, you know, that's kind of just our center, as well as Gresham. And so, you know, we have developed an expertise, I guess you could say, in really helping people navigate across jurisdictions, because it was, you know, really highlighted in our COVID response. You know, the city of Portland gets a lot more resources than the city of Gresham. And then you have people who are technically the city of Gresham, but their address says Portland, and they're just like, I just need some help. Can somebody just figure it out? And that's, you know, where we step in and try to do a lot of that work. So yeah, so Rosewood is just kind of how people identify in their community. It's no boundary that any government official has given us.
Great, thank you. Well, it looks like we don't have any other questions coming in, but of course, we always know how to reach you and your team, Sabrina.
Yep.
So we can get in touch with more questions in the future. Thank you so much for coming to present and updating. I know since we aren't seeing you in person, we don't get to see what's going on at the Rosewood. But I'm glad to see that you're still making a difference, especially during these tough times.
Yeah.
So
Feel
thank
free to
you.
stop by. If you want to volunteer, let us know. Yeah, still stay engaged.
Okay, absolutely.
Thanks for
All
having me.
right, you bet. Thank you, Sabrina. I want to jump back to Gail now, who I see we now have on camera as well. And I think I need to do some unmuting.
Because I can't see that my video is on, although it should be on. Okay, well, I will just say a couple things. I was merrily going through my slides, but apparently you guys weren't seeing anything. So how that was working, I'm not sure. Or apparently it wasn't working at all. So let me see if I can bring up my slides. I guess I can't. I don't know why it's, oh, there it is. Now, are you able to see my slides at all?
I am not. And are you?
Okay.
It's interesting because it says that we can't, I can ask to unmute you, but obviously we can already hear you.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me just say the last thing. I
Okay.
put in the chat. I think you saw in the chat. I put the ways to contact me, and I put the the East Portland Resilience Coalition website and the way to take the survey and contact us. And if anyone has questions, absolutely, I'm happy to contact them directly and talk more about it. The last thing I would just say, Centennial as an organization is one of the partners, and I want to encourage individual people in the Centennial area and throughout the 13 neighborhoods to get involved in our discussion groups. We're building ideas. We are building potential projects that will benefit the neighborhood and for which we can apply as a coalition partners for further funding. So things like many ideas will come up, and we would like any ideas that folks have. So I would just say I'll also put my personal email in the chat, as well as the Resilience Coalition, and just contact me. A number of you who have heard this presentation before, but Centennial, we want to move forward some of the important projects for Centennial through this means as well, through our membership in the coalition. So, and I apologize, I'm not entirely sure what went wrong. Yeah, so I will just put my own email in there as well and call it good for now. And I apologize about that. But yeah, so we are underway, and join us.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you for making your way back into the meeting. I've got a question here from Karen, Jeremy, and Max. Has this group talked about what projects CCA would like to see under EPRC?
I would say as a board, the board has not yet talked specifically or weighed in on the projects. I know that we would like to have close collaboration with the Centennial Emergency Team to think about collaborating together for how we will distribute good information and help the emergency team move forward with their resilience planning as well. So like I said, we have 24 organizations. We have a lot of power here if we can get some great ideas at the neighborhood level together. So that'll be the outcome that we want to see into the future. Yeah, any other questions?
Again, from Karen, maybe we could collaborate on a neighborhood listening project. That sounds engaging. Yeah, that would be happy, something that we can easily begin to set up with our network. And I think we're also, sorry to kind of hijack Gail. I think we're also at a point too where we should probably as a board have a meeting with CNET just to talk about what resources we have access to, because I think I don't think we've ever had a formal conversation to sit down and figure out how to share resources. I think one of the biggest challenges we have as an organization is getting digital connections to everyone that lives in this neighborhood. You know, we certainly don't even have 1% of all of the emails in the neighborhood, or maybe even 0.1%. So, and I know that we also don't have a connection to all of the organizations that exist. Such as, you know, houses of worship and other organizations and businesses and all of that. So that would be another wonderful project to take on. Okay, any other questions? I'll watch for raised hands or more chat. All right, thank you, Gail, and for hanging with the unpredictability of internet connections. Last on the agenda tonight is just a little bit of a community safety update. I know that in the past we've researched, or we've shared different resources that are available in our community. You know, the first and the one that I use foremost is reporting abandoned vehicles that are clearly abandoned and are not being lived in and are not drivable. Right now, that because of a state of emergency, the city has a number that's shared on their website, which I believe we shared in the invite to this meeting. And so that has helped remove some things. We've had less luck with getting any sort of community cleanups involved or started. It looks like Solve Oregon is starting to re-engage in community cleanups. If there are certain areas that you see in the community and just want to call attention to, I'd be happy if you emailed me, and I'll go just take this opportunity to share my email. And then we have had an ongoing situation with camping and trash at the 150th and Division Street property, which is owned by Portland Parks and Rec. I've gotten involved with reaching out to different bureaus, reaching out to the Commissioner Rubio's office. We initially received some promises that they would look into it, but we haven't seen any developments until today. I believe there is a local volunteer that is out cleaning up things. I haven't had time to research it more, or I would give you more information than that. I think that is one resource that we might be able to utilize. Another thing that we can do as an organization is if we could do some volunteer cleanups. I think the cost of obtaining a dumpster or two at specific sites would be a moderate cost, and I know there are funds within CCA to help support something like that. Of course, that's something that has to be talked about a little bit more in detail, but those are a few of the things that I'm hoping we can see. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Heidi. So Heidi is the one who had the lead on the volunteer that I was talking about. That it's Neighbors Helping Neighbors PDX, Terrence Moses. He does this purely as a volunteer and helped clean up a huge garbage pile today. So that's the 150th and Division Street property that I was just talking about. Of course, we want to make sure that we're allowing everyone to, to camp and be safe as they can. But I think there are certain areas that are just prone to garbage dumping and other unsafe activities. Let's see, comment from Karen. Community safety wise, a lot of people seem really concerned about the Paradise Lounge on 170th and Division. Karen, can I unmute you? I actually have not. I run down Division, but I haven't heard anything about it. Would you mind kind of filling us in?
Yeah, so this is just a next door randomness, but this is 170th and Division. It used to be Canadaddy's dispensary. And I mean, I don't know, there should probably be some like process for integrating, I heard it on next door, into this meeting. But it seems like there have been some maybe dangerous illicit activities there. There was a shooting a couple nights ago.
Okay.
And a death resulted. So I know that on the CCA website, it says that one of the ways that we can get involved in the neighborhood is join a neighborhood watch group. And I know that there are some really consistent challenges with neighborhood watch and other types of programs that are perceived as vigilante oriented. And I know David Lynn could speak to this from his experience in Montevilla with what's happened there. So I wouldn't want to approach this or any other sort of community safety issue from that perspective. But it does seem that people are worried about it. And just wanted to see if anybody else had any other insights.
That's interesting. I had not known that Canadaddy's had moved out. So this must be somewhat recent. I did have one officer, Officer Bianca from PPB, who reached out to introduce themselves a few weeks ago. I can certainly get back in touch about this, but it sounds similar to other hotspots we've had in the neighborhood where we're seeing illicit activity crop up. And also to your comment about Neighborhood Watch, our website is out of date. I want to fully admit that. And we were hoping to add some more resources on that and get that more fleshed out. The City of Portland Office of Civic and Community Life, yes, they have walked away from the Neighborhood Watch model. It is more of a neighbors together model. I know that we've had Mary Tompkins come and talk about that as an option. I think that relies really on neighbors coming forward together to address something. And so I don't know how close, you might personally be to that location, but I think it's also something that relies on us getting more kind of a critical mass of concerned neighbors around the property. But this is definitely on my radar now, something to reach out to check in about. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, no problem. And I mean, I live at, well, my house is at 168th and Division.
Hmm.
Well, that's not true. It's at Woodward. That's how I give people outside the
Okay.
neighborhood. I live at 160th and Woodward, so 4 blocks south of Division. But so that's right, it's as I pull onto Division, it's basically right there. And there's also the former China Hut. It has something posted on the window that says we'll be back in like November of 2019. So nothing has been happening there since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really quite fascinating that kind of stretch is there's like a combination of a lot going on and nothing going on.
Yeah.
Oh, Aaron's saying that he saw people in the China Hut. That's exciting.
Okay.
Hopefully good, exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then just, I think one last thing that I'll point out is that tonight is the election for a school board. So potentially inviting a school board member after the transition happens. I mean, I know David looks like he's going to be on the board, so that'll be a natural liaison position. But potentially,
Yeah.
having a liaison from CCA that attends the centennial meetings as well, like the school board meetings as well, just to increase communication there.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, and we're happy to. I'll make a note of that. That's something we can reach out about. And certainly with the referendum and other things, it's been an exciting year for Centennial School District.
Yeah, bond. I am on the bond oversight committee, as well as the budget committee for the district. So if anybody has questions about those things, we can try to answer.
And I have to correct myself. Bond, not referendum.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a difference there, but I don't have it on the top of my head right now. Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Any questions? And next, I want to introduce Sherry. I know, Sherry, you had a couple of announcements. I am searching to find the button to unmute you. There we go.
Hi, folks.
Hello.
Nice to be here. I've become involved with Lift Every Voice Oregon, and there's petitions circulating for voting voting for next year regarding gun safety. And I have the petitions available, and there's 2 of them. One is to ban the future sale of assault firearms, and that would mean that it would still be allowed for police and military. And the other one is to require a permit to purchase a firearm, including training to use a firearm and limiting the sale of magazine rounds. And I want folks to know that I'll put my email and my phone number on there if they want to text, because we can work out so I can get you the petition to sign so that it can be on the ballot in November of 2022. Seems funny, it's so long ago. And this is this coalition is a faith coalition, and much of it's been run out of Augustana Lutheran Church in Northeast Portland. So it's a good group of people. And the other, well, this is kind of a personal announcement, but I've been, and Dan knows all about this, I've been involved in trying to get my garage remodeled through the city of Portland's permitting. And there is going to be a letter sent to Centennial Neighborhood Association to respond to my request to get a waiver and I'm not using the right term right now, but that's what I can remember, so that I can continue to park in front of my garage. And it's complicated in so many ways, and Dan has helped me through this, and I really appreciate that. So there's going to be a letter coming, and you have 3 weeks to respond or not, and that'll be happening to my neighbors as well. So I appreciate y'all your help, Dan, and I'm going to put my contact things in here right now.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes, as a side note, my day job is an architect. So if you ever want advice sometimes about permitting and things, I'm always happy to be a resource. Well, I think that concludes.
Whoops.
Oh, yeah, the whole thing. Yeah, just thinking there. I think that concludes our agenda for this meeting. I'm curious. I see we do have some new faces here this evening. I wonder if anybody has any kind of final questions or any other business that they've been seeing around the neighborhood, or anything that they want to bring up while we have this opportunity to talk about it. You can feel free to raise your hand or type in the chat box. I'll wait just a little bit more in case anybody's typing a very long question. But well, I want to thank everyone for coming and spending an hour and a half of your evenings with us. As I mentioned earlier, this meeting will be posted on YouTube in hopefully 24 hours. And as always, please be in touch. You can obviously, if you got here, you are on our mailing list. But you can also check us out on Facebook. We have an active page there. You just search Centennial Community Association. And then we are also working to update our website, so there are more resources there. So thank you all for coming. I am going to stop recording and end the meeting. Have a wonderful night, and be safe out there.